we get these negative outcomes in our head of what we think is going to happen, and we run with it. Have you ever just thought about that for a second? We naturally, as humans, kind of gravitate a little bit more towards the negative side of thinking because, when we were hunter-gatherers, that's what protected us, was being able to think about, hey, what could happen to me, right? It's what kept, your wits about yourself. But we don't live like that anymore. And we all need to start thinking more positive. But even people who think they're positive don't realize that they still do this. And that is, assuming a negative outcome. But what really gets me is when people assume a negative outcome, they fucking run with it. That's it. And they put it in their backpack and they just go full speed ahead with that negative outcome. And they don't even think about, hold on a second. So if you are able to think about the absolute worst, my challenges, then you also got to think about the absolute best. So think about it this way. When you assume a negative outcome, right? And you're just like, oh, fuck, this is what's going to happen. And I know it. And my God, first of all, you don't know. Unless you were God, unless you got a crystal ball, you absolutely have no idea what's going to happen. There are so many variables. You have to think that maybe sometimes the reason those negative outcomes do come to fruition for you is because that is the energy you're putting out. Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Thanks for tuning in. I hope that you're all having a really great day, a great week. It's hard to believe that it's literally, by the time you listen to this, it's going to be summertime. I'm recording this. There's still a week left of school for my 3 kiddos. By the time you listen to this, probably be the end of June, something like that. But it's just crazy. And time really, really just flew by this year. I mean, this spring, January to today, is just gone by, and I just think about looking back about all the things, that have been accomplished, all the things that have, happened, all the different events, and just, reflecting a little bit. And so that brings me to today's episode. I want to talk about, being willing to think about positive outcomes. So I got a challenge for you all. If you follow me on Instagram, first of all, thank you. But I shared a reel a few weeks ago, which would be, or maybe even last week, which would be the, about the second week of May, about this challenge. The challenge is I want you, every single time you're thinking about a negative outcome that you think is going to happen, my challenge is that you have to be able to also think of a positive one. Okay. So let's say you get some news, about something up and coming, or maybe it's with your work and you just heard out some news. It's really going to just seems like it's going to mess things up for you, right? It's going to affect you in a negative way, right? Whatever it is, maybe you're divorced and your ex is starting up some shit. I don't care, whatever it is. It could just be something about later today. Maybe you've already gotten some news or a call about something later today and you're just like, oh, fuck. This is literally just going to be ruined now. So whatever it is, we get these negative outcomes in our head of what we think is going to happen, and we run with it. Have you ever just thought about that for a second? We naturally, as humans, kind of gravitate a little bit more towards the negative side of thinking because, when we were hunter-gatherers, that's what protected us, was being able to think about, hey, what could happen to me, right? It's what kept, your wits about yourself. But we don't live like that anymore. And we all need to start thinking more positive. But even people who think they're positive don't realize that they still do this. And that is, assuming a negative outcome. And what really gets me is when people assume a negative outcome, they fucking run with it. That's it. And they put it in their backpack and they just go full speed ahead with that negative outcome, and they don't even think about, well, what, hold on a second. So if you are able to think about the absolute worst, my challenges, then you also got to think about the absolute best. So think about it this way. When you assume a negative outcome, right? And you're just like, oh fuck, this is what's going to happen, and I know it, and my God, but first of all, you don't know, unless you were God, unless you got a crystal ball, you absolutely have no idea what's going to happen. There are so many variables. And you have to think that maybe sometimes the reason those negative outcomes do come to fruition for you is because that is the energy you're putting out. Oh, Janna, that's what was going to happen. My friends, free will is real, and things can always go two ways, right? Because your energy affects the energy of others. You have an internal magnet. Just think of your core, right? Your abdomen area. You have an internal magnet you're constantly attracting, whether you know it or not. So if you're constantly thinking negative, if you're pulling towards negative, like, this is going to be the outcome, that's going to be what you're attracting, what you're pulling in, right? So think about it this way. That negative outcome that you are just assuming in your mind, that is the 10. And 10 is, on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 is the absolute worst outcome. So think about that. You already know the 10. Like, you already know, like, hey, that's the worst that can happen. The challenge is, what about 1 through 9, right? You already assume the absolute worst. That's your 10. Now I want you to think about 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6 and 7, 8 and 9. So if you can think about the worst thing that can happen, I want you to start thinking about what's the best thing that could happen. Like, let's look at this another way. Oh, Janna, there's really no other way to look at my situation. I promise you there is. And it might not be one that you can actually see. It can be one that you just want. And you have faith in a higher power, because that higher power really just kind of wants you to believe in yourself and have faith. Sometimes we are handed things, negativity, chaos. Sometimes we're handed those things to see how we will handle it. Are you going to give in? Are you going to give in and just be like, oh, here we go. I know exactly how this is going to go. I'm fucked. I'm screwed. And you don't understand what this changes and how this affects me. Blah, blah, blah. You literally just went down this whole entire road of negativity, of fear-based thoughts, and you won't have a clue if that's really going to happen. So do you want that to happen? I don't think that you do. So you can't say you don't want that to happen and then also at the same time not be willing to think about, hey, let's look at this the other way. What's the best that could happen? What else? What are the other possible outcomes? You don't really know what the outcome is going to be, but I promise you, you can affect that with your energy. I promise you can. Sometimes those are just tests sent your way to see, well, how much faith do you really have? How strong are you really? Because if every time you're thrown, you're thrown something that's just, meant to throw you off a little bit, every single time you go towards the negative and the woe is me road, maybe you're not ready for something more, something bigger. So think about that, right? We're always being tested. We're being tested all the time. You are either in a season of being tested, a season of learning, a season of growth, or you're in a season of being rewarded for overcoming. Every moment of your life, every second of the day, you are in a particular season. Which one are you in? So if you feel like you've been really stuck and you're kind of not, gaining momentum and leveling up, it is because you're not learning the lessons at hand, my friends. So everyone is so eager to just roll with that negative, like, oh man, I just knew it. I just knew it. This is what's going to happen. And that's just my luck. Well, if you're so eager to run with that negative outcome you think is going to happen, I want you to be just as eager, if not more, about, you know what? Maybe this is good. Maybe the universe is trying to show me something and trying to steer me away from something that is really not good for me that I can't see. Because you got to trust the universe. You can't say you have faith, but then not have 100% faith. Having faith isn't just, I have faith. I have faith when I think it's going to, work out and be good. No, no, that's not faith. Faith is believing in something that you can't see. You don't know how it's going to happen. It doesn't make sense, but you just you believe it. You believe it because you believe in a higher power. That, my friends, is faith. So you have to have faith in the positive possibilities of life. Kind of like that. Sounds actually really good. You have to have faith in the positive possibilities in life, right? Do you really want a negative outcome? How many of you right now listening want that negative outcome that you're drumming up in your head? How many of you? I don't think that anyone right now listening is like, oh, I do. Come on. I want a negative outcome. Said no one ever. But I'm going to be straight up honest with you right now. You're actually fucking scared of that positive outcome. You're scared of the possibility of the positive outcome. It feels foreign to you. It feels uncomfortable. You don't fucking like it because that doesn't set right with you. That's just not how it goes for you, right? Things like that don't happen to me. Well, maybe they don't because you don't fucking think that they can. Maybe they don't because you don't have faith. Maybe they don't because you don't believe in yourself. No one else is going to believe in yourself until you do. And when you do, people fucking sense it. People feel it. People can energy's real, guys. It's real. When you feel confident, when you believe in yourself and you feel strong and powerful in all that you are, people feel that energy and they're gravitated towards you, right? You keep gravitating towards shitty people and they keep gravitating towards you. Yeah, you better change your energy up and you're going to have to do a lot of inner work and a lot of healing. But I promise you it's worth it. I do 100%. I used to be a very negative person. I used to say, well, I'm a realist. Well, sure. But I gravitated towards the negative. Like, I mean, my God, I'm just going to be honest and real. Like, this is how it's going to go. It's all going to go to shit or blah, 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 blah. And you know what? I'm not that way anymore. And it feels really, really good. There were some very recent things that happened in my life, not with me personally, but someone very close with me. And it was related to someone that they know in their professional world. And, they had some things occurred that were just bad luck, right? Just like you hate to see shitty things happen to good people, but it did. And this particular person was like, this is really going to affect my business. Like and I'm just like, whoa. Like, first of all, it sucks for that person, but you just went from 1 to 10 like that. Right. And I said, well, you know what? I understand. I get it. I do. But because I love you, I don't want to see you go down that road. Like I mean, that person has had all the scenarios, the fully produced movie in their head of like, whoa, this is what's going to happen. This is a domino effect. So I shared the wisdom I'm sharing with you today. And I said, maybe there's going to be something good. No, you don't understand. I said, I do understand. I understand business. But let's think about, okay, what you're saying, you're proposing, that's the 10. So what is the 1? There's nothing good about this. My God. I was like, I get it. I'm not trying to sound insensitive. In fact, I'm trying to help you to be positive because I don't want to see you do this to yourself. As a person, I'm a teacher in the sense of I teach people, right? Not in the school system. I'm a teacher. I'm a healer. I'm a helper. I really like to help people. That's my purpose in life, is to help, teach others how to feel their very best from the inside out. And so sometimes I have to think about that because it can seem like I'm just giving off advice where I'm like, oh, and I don't want to be that poor person. That can be annoying. But when it's someone I'm really, really close with, it's a little harder. And so, anyways, I told that person, like, but maybe this particular thing that is unfortunate for that person, maybe it was necessary in order for things to shift. Well, fast forward a few weeks, maybe about almost a month, and that thing that happened ended up being a 1. It ended up being a positive. And the person that I gave the advice to was like, you were right. You were right. They're like, I never saw this coming, but that was necessary in order for this to happen over here with someone else unrelated. And see, my friends, that's why you never ever discount the one. All right. Maybe yo, I can't think of a one. Think of a fucking five. I don't care. But if you can think about the absolute worst possible outcome, that's your 10. My challenge to you is, what is your one? Okay. And as eager as you are to run with your 10 and be like, yeah, that's what's going to happen, better take that same energy, put that one in your backpack, my friends, and you better be just as fucking eager to go down the road with that one. You know what? If the one doesn't happen, maybe it's a 5. Maybe it is your 10. But you just have to trust that everything's happening the way that it is, but you got to do your part. And your part is to have faith. Your part is to pass the fucking test. Every little test that's coming your way, every little moment that's coming your way is on purpose, right? It's to test and see, well, are they going to break here? Huh? Are they going to learn here? Are they going to change? Look what's going to go on here. Because we also don't realize that our thoughts affect others. So let's say that the news you get could possibly be a negative impact on your work, right? And you and your colleagues are sharing each other's, your opinions with each other. But if you have a negative opinion and someone, respects you or looks up to you, you're affecting their thoughts as well. That's where the domino effect comes into play, right? If I didn't know all that I know now and have this wisdom, because my friends, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. Wisdom does not come with age. You can be 20 years old and have more wisdom than a fucking 90-year-old. Wisdom does not come with age. Wisdom comes with choosing to learn from adversity, with choosing to learn from pain. Just because you had a painful experience doesn't mean that you learned. You and I can go through the same painful experience, but if I choose to learn from it and you choose to stay the victim and woe is me, we are going to have different outcomes, because I chose to have that be my teacher as it was sent to be, and you chose to stay a victim. Wisdom comes with choosing to learn from pain. So if you're 90 years old and you never chose to learn from anything, but at 20 you did, you have more wisdom. Get it? If I didn't have the wisdom I have with this particular topic I'm sharing with you, and I wouldn't have shared that with this particular person I'm telling you the story about, when I was like, hey, that is shitty news. But instead of going down this road of how you think it's going to affect you, you don't know, think about, that's your 10. So feel good knowing that you already know what the worst possibility could be. Hey, let's think about the best. If I wouldn't have shared that, I couldn't have affected that person's thoughts either. Maybe their one wouldn't have happened. If I didn't have this wisdom, I would have shared their negativity with them and stayed with them and been like, oh yeah, oh my God. Oh. And then you have that much more energy towards the negative. But none of us ever know how anything's going to go, how anything's going to end up. And though we think we can assume, we don't know the variables that are going to come into play. And that's where things can shift. That's where things can change. And sometimes that variable is waiting to see how you are going to handle it. So think about that. And remember, challenge yourself from now on to think about not just the absolute worst, but hey, if I can think about what the absolute worst possibility of an outcome is, I got to be just as eager to think about the positive. All right. Love you all. Thanks for tuning in. Share this episode with a friend. All right. If you loved it, share it. All right. I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.